everyone. Welcome back to the channel for a brand new series we are calling Countdown to Scream 2022. I am so excited to, reintroduce my partner in all of this madness. He was just on the Merry Hour, and now he is here for our first official episode of this series. It's Joel Mears. Joel, how are you doing? Introduce yourself to everyone who missed
I
the Merry Hour.
I am so excited to be here with you, Perry. I am sobered up from our beer pong escapades and ready to talk about probably my favorite thing in the world. Excluding family, I guess. Maybe it's a close second, but I am so pumped to be here and to be here with you. You are my favorite person. Glad.
You are my favorite, and we're talking about one of my favorite things. I don't think this combination could get much better. And
No.
just so you guys know, we have so many exciting things that we're working on for this series. It's going to be once a month. You're going to get one of these videos, and then maybe as we get closer to the new movie, you're going to see more of them, and we're going to do a little bit of everything. You're going to see some ranked videos like the one we're going to give you right now. You're going to see reactions to news as we get them, things like trailers, and maybe you're going to see some interviews on this series. Who knows? There are so many possibilities, and we're going to tackle as much as we possibly can. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to rank our favorite Scream movies. We figured there's no better way for any of you who don't know us and our work to introduce you to our opinions on this franchise. So I'm going to give you my number 4 first, because I do have a feeling a lot of you know my ranking at this point. So I'm going to say my 4th favorite movie in the Scream franchise is Scream 3. And I do want to give a little disclaimer. Even though Scream 3 is at the bottom of my ranked list, I still love it because I love all Scream movies, but I can criticize that one the most.
Well, I will say, Perry, that Scream 3, and for those who don't know, I'm from Rotten Tomatoes, a little website that aggregates movie reviews and stamps them with a number. Love us or hate us for it. But Scream 3 is the lowest rated on the tomato meter of the Scream films. And it's the actually only rotten Scream movie there is, so far. Let's hope it stays that way come January, but yeah.
The big reason why I put it at the bottom of the list. By the way, guys, we're going to talk spoilers. Like, if you're here, you've seen all the movies, right? I hope so. The main reason why I put this at the bottom of the list is the whole killer reveal of it all. You can't really do something like that and have it be anything less than flawless. When you find out Roman's relation to Sydney, the details don't line up. It doesn't entirely make sense. And something like that also becomes harmful to the previous movies. Thankfully, this is a case where I do love Scream 3 enough that I'm not necessarily thinking about that the entire time when I'm watching 1 and 2. But I've been in situations, Independence Day Resurgence, where I see something that happens in a sequel that then takes away from the installment that I loved so much. That's not the case here. I'm not getting that extreme with it, but it is just a very fair criticism to make in this case, even though it's a movie that I enjoy quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that is an absolutely fair criticism of a basically perfect movie. So we can see that my rankings are different from Perry's, but we'll get there in a second.
What is your number 4, Joel?
Well, my number 4, despite the quality of the poster, is Scream 4. So I think the reason, and again, like Perry, this is my favorite franchise. Although I think is it your second favorite franchise or
It's
first
my
favorite franchise?
second favorite. It's a close
Okay.
second to Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that one may be a little more landmark, but for me, the Scream movies just were the thing that got me into movies and starting an Angel Fire website back in the day. But
Angel
let's
Fire.
not go there. No one can find it. So huge fan. So even though I'm saying Scream 4 is my least favorite of the 4 movies, it is definitely a movie that I still love, and I can rewatch these movies over and over again and do and have for this series. So that's been really fun. I think the thing that I don't love as much, or that fails to grip me in the same way about 4 as the others, is what I feel is a kind of strange mishmash of two types of movies where I feel like the first two movies got horror and comedy seamlessly sort of integrated, and then the third movie was its own strange camp comedy thing, but I actually feel was quite consistent within that world. Scream 4 feels to me like it's a bit of a blend of both that doesn't necessarily sit too comfortably next to each other. And while I think Scream 4 absolutely was a prototype setter when it comes to these sort of reboots we're seeing where old cast, new cast come together, like Jurassic World, incidentally, and even The Force Awakens. Yes, Scream 4 is the platform blueprint for The Force Awakens in my mind, but I don't think every element fits comfortably together, and so you have sort of like splotchy moments that recall the first film, and then you have stuff that just doesn't work as well that feels very Scream 3, and then it's kind of messy and a little too segmentized, and the new characters for me beyond Kirby, and obviously Emma Roberts, don't really stick the landing or feel compelling to me. I will say a couple of things I do love about Scream 4, however, are Kirby, so Hayden Panettiere, who just like nails it and gives us like the best sidekick since Tatum. Really, I think, in one for the slasher ages, to be honest. I think she's so charismatic and so dynamic. I think Emma Roberts is fantastic in this film. And I love the finale in this one. I think it's so refreshing and so different from the franchise that I actually enjoyed it. Again, maybe I don't plot the points, the family stuff, and maybe it works or doesn't, but I just enjoy that final sequence where she goes batshit crazy. Um, the thing I don't love, again, is that I think you disagree with me on this, but I also think this has the weakest opening scene. And I know that a lot of people would say Cotton Weary dying in number three is kind of a bit meh, but I actually enjoyed that by comparison to this because this felt like they took the meta to a level where it just got any sense of scariness or suspense disappeared for me. And I thought that was kind of an element of the entire film overall, that it had that thing about Scream 3, which was that nothing really matters and there's no actual danger and we're just here to like, jibber jabber sort of pop cultural lines. But it sort of spread it on an original Woodsboro setting. And I didn't love it as much, but I still like it a lot. And there's a lot going for it.
I very much get that criticism of the opening sequence because even though I love it for, the fun and the uber meta-ness of it, I get that because that's a very big difference between Scream 4 and the previous installments is just how utterly chilling and horrifying those opening sequences are, whereas that one is more playful. So if you prefer the other type, I very much get that. While you were discussing that too, an idea popped into my head that we might have to do a ranking of all the sidekicks because
Yes.
Kirby is a very, very special character, but I would actually say the same about Parker Posey.
Yes. So this will get to my love of Scream 3, and Parker Posey is basically my rationale. So that's why I would put that on the table. No, she's incredible. Is she? Does she? I sort of think I'm trying to think. She doesn't fit the sort of
She is
normal slasher sidekick mold. So I'm
she's
sort of
not
like maybe
necessarily
that's why she didn't spring
Sydney's
to mind.
she's not
No,
Sydney's sidekick, but she is very much Gail's sidekick.
that is true. That's sort of two out of the three Charlie's Angels silhouette as they're going down. It's incredible work, and the basement scene. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead to Scream 3. Do you want me to give my third
You
ranking,
might as
or
well. You might as well. Let's do it. What's your number 3?
my number three is number three? Sorry to be predictable, but I adore this film. And the only reason it's not higher is because the other two in my heart and mind are so unassailable. But I think, all your points about the story validity and questions that can be asked of Scream 3 when it comes to Roman are absolutely spot on. But I love this film because it feels to me like this different thing. It's like this pop, colorful, strange, camp, hilarious comedy, and it takes a totally different approach because even in the scariest moments, bar one, which I'll talk about in a second, it really doesn't ever take it seriously and lets the comedy just constantly be at the surface and sort of above the horror. So when Jenny McCarthy's character dies, or when Parker Posey's like, I'm the killer in Stab 3, and she's behind the mirror, and it's just always ridiculous. You never get a sense of actual fear. And then the sort of booby trap finale with the spinning doors and all that kind of stuff. It's so silly and so fun. But it does have also, I think, one of the scariest sequences in all of Screamdom, which is when Sydney visits the set and is in her own house, which is great. Shout out to the Creed poster. And it's one of those things that's just really dark and interesting. But the other thing I really appreciate about Scream 3 is kind of in retrospect was a progressive and interesting take on what happens in Hollywood. So it took this small story from Woodsboro, which we were familiar with, and it stretched the logic of the story, right? But it really did this interesting thing where it looked at the exploitation of young people who come to Hollywood trying to make it with a dream by these vile sort of creatures like the Lance Henriksen character, who's quite an obvious in retrospect stand in for a certain producer who
Mm.
happened to be a producer on the film. And it had a lot of interesting things to say about power and dynamics in Hollywood and also trauma, which actually informed the entire storyline of Scream. And I think was doing something a little subversive. Maybe it wasn't overly aware of what it was doing, but it's a really fascinating text to watch. And so I think when we looked at the Me Too movement 2017, 2018, there were a couple of pieces that were like, Scream 3 had something on its mind that some of us didn't necessarily pick up of or make enough of at the time. So I also argue for the camp ludicrousness of it, but also the sort of it's a bit of a dinner plate of ideas as well.
Yeah, I think those are all points that I very much agree with, and definitely fuel my love for this one. I can't get enough of the silliness of it all, and also in
Mm,
general, I do tend to like movies about making movies, and I don't think that
mm.
Scream 3 gets enough credit for the actual weight behind some of the things that it's trying to say. So there is lots to love about that one. My number 3 is Scream 4. Again, I do appreciate that opening. I also love when Emma Roberts goes batshit crazy. I'll never forget my reaction to seeing that for the first time and just like being totally surprised by the whole thing and just blown away
Mm.
by how extreme that sequence is and her behavior in it. I
The
couldn't
glass
get enough
table,
of
I
it.
was like, what is going on?
But I also happen to have been a very big fan of that entire new ensemble. I mean, everybody. I thought Rory Culkin was great in that and most certainly made a big impression. I even liked Alison Brie's contribution to that. I thought her sequence was excellent. And Marley Shelton, I mean, Lemon Squares. I need to see
Lemon
Lemon Squares
squares.
in this new movie. I thought there were a lot of really good new additions. And Scream 4 was ahead of its time in a lot of ways with, the use of the use of live streaming, for example,
Mm.
and also in terms of what you brought up with Force Awakens and things like that. Like that's all the rage right now is bringing back original ensembles and giving a new generation of fans a young ensemble to enjoy seeing. I keep thinking about Cobra Kai when I bring up examples like that.
I agree. Maybe I was a little harsh on some of the cast members, but I did feel the characters were throwaway a little bit in some regards, except for Rory and Kirby. I'm mixing character and actor names there, but some of the horror sequences felt a little indifferently made to me. And I feel like Master Wes, I apologize, but I do think the sequence where, and forgive me again, I forget the name of the character and actress who's in the bedroom, and it's a
Mhm.
great concept. It's a great concept, but it's just rushed and it doesn't really get to settle in. And also the scene with the wind chimes, I'm kind of like, I don't know what's going on with the wind chimes. But yeah, I was sort of, hmm.
Yeah, yet another reasonable criticism right there. The kill sequences feel especially well defined in 1 and 2, obviously,
Hmm.
but even 3, I feel like the visuals and the setups of what those were come to mind with far more definition than, let's say, the sequence with Olivia, I believe, in the bedroom where
Yes.
it doesn't have the same kind of creative flair as those other ones did. It makes it a little less memorable. All right, number 2. I'll be predictable here and I'll say my number 2 is Scream 2. I think it is an excellent movie, a movie that I've watched more times than I can count. I will never forget, just because this was on my mind because I just came from Florida very recently, visiting my grandparents, like, little granddaughter goes to visit her grandparents, and all I wanted them to do was take me back to the theater over and over again to see Scream 2.
Oh my God. Poor Nana.
they're kind and loving enough that they definitely indulge me, and they saw the movie quite a few times, but my mind was just blown because also Scream in general was very much my horror education growing up. I hadn't seen movies like, let's say, Halloween before I had seen
Mm,
Scream. Like Scream was my
same.
gateway movie. It introduced me to a lot of horror essentials. And when it came to expanding the conversation as far as, the meta nature of the first movie goes to incorporating sequels, that introduced me to a whole new crop of movies. I mean, that scene in the film class was
Hmm.
instrumental to me. I'm busy sitting there
Like writing it
watching.
down.
I'm busy seriously sitting, taking notes and making sure that I see everything. I'm eternally grateful to both Scream and Scream 2 for not only teaching me about horror movie making in general, but movies, period, and the legacy that certain ones have. So I thought that the ideas and the way that they expanded that on that first movie they're genius. They are
Yeah.
genius. I think they're incredibly smart, and that is a big reason why I love Scream 2, among many other reasons that we'd be here for hours if I started to discuss them all.
Should I reveal my number
Yeah,
yeah. It's we're getting down to the point. There are two options here, and
totally
I
gonna do
actually
it.
think that Scream 2 is the best film in the Scream franchise. I think it's like for me, and better film. Is it a better film? I don't know, but it is the one that I love the most, and it's the one I will rewatch the most. And I think part of that is what you said about the way that it expands the universe in this extraordinary way, I think. And it's very subtle, like it didn't go all the way crazy meta like Scream 3, but just the introduction of Stab, the sort of familial ties, all that kind of stuff that builds out both the world of what Scream slash Stab and entertainment is, and that whole discussion around film, and then also the actual nugget situation at the core, the central characters. So I absolutely love that. I think why it's the one that I return to the most is that and just by the way, Rotten Tomatoes, it is the highest rated of all the Scream movies. So it is a couple of percentage points above Scream One, and I'm not just doing this ranking for to promote the brand. This is genuinely what I also believe. But I think what Scream 2 does is that it does all of that world building, all that kind of stuff, introduces new fun characters. Um, and Debbie Salt, like, oh my God, can we talk about Debbie Salt for a second?
You
Genius,
don't get
Laurie
much better
Metcalf.
than Laurie Metcalf.
No, but I think so. Scream 1 is a perfect film in some senses. But between the opening sequence and the attack on Sydney Prescott at her home, not much happens horror wise, really, until we get to the party, right? Whereas I feel like Scream 2 delivers just like awesome moment horror set piece after awesome moment horror set piece right through in a way that we don't quite get in the first film. And I know that's, as Randy so sort of eloquently describes, you've got to have more kills, you've got to up the body count, you've got to do all these things. Great trailer again. But I think about the opening sequence of Scream 2, and I'm like, that was such a smart approach to what to do, because you have set the bar so high, expectations are so extraordinary coming in. You do something kind of totally different, which is not sort of nerve-wrenchingly terrifying in its way, but it's profound. And it's really surprising, and it's beautifully acted. Like Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps just killing it in that scene. And then you come through with the like, oh hey, here's Cece, here's Sarah Michelle Gellar, the greatest slasher actress currently, and she's just gonna like kill it in this scene that's like almost as good as the Casey Becker murder, and is beautifully written and beautifully suspenseful. And then you're gonna go and like, we're not gonna wait till the end. We're gonna kill off Randy halfway through, which is like bold move, Drew Barrymore level. You're shocked, ludicrous sequence, but so fun. Like boombox at the end, I'm down. It's stupid, but I love it, and it's suspenseful. And then yeah, I just felt like they sustained it moment after moment through. And so I think when I think about rewatchability, I think about those specific sequences that I really just adore rewatching, and they stay in my heart and mind. Whereas I don't want to say I love Scream to death, but I think
Mhm.
there's some filler. And then just this is not between. This is sort of the finale, but the school, the film school section, and her in the barricadey blocky thing, and the and Dewey and the behind the noise, and I can't. I just want to watch and watch over and over again.
You make very good points. I will I will respectfully disagree with the filler comment, and I'm gonna kind of disagree on it starting out with Casey Becker and then you waiting for the big scares, the big kills until the end party. But the reason why I'm only kind of disagreeing with that is because I think Scream 1 and Scream 2 are just, they're slightly different movies in terms of the nature of their kills. And it goes right back to what you said that Randy says. When you have a sequel, it needs to be
Yes.
you need to ramp it up to a degree. You need to have a different kind of kill in order to, in a sense, top what you did the first time around. So, whereas that first movie, and admittedly, this might come from nostalgia and the age that I saw it at for the very first time, but in that first movie, even though we don't necessarily get any outrageous big kills until later on in the movie, that scene where Sydney is attacked in her house is
Mm.
quite horrifying and exhilarating to me. And the same could be said even for the sequence in the bathroom. I think the way that that is shot is mighty
Yes.
frightening, and those happen earlier on in the film. Whereas in something like a Scream 2, you get those bigger, bloodier set pieces, like Cece being thrown off the balcony, and you get Randy's death, as you said. Randy's death used to scare me to death for some reason the first time like something about it. It's like my age cutoff of covering my eyes came fairly early, but I was still doing that kind of stuff then. And I would have like now I look at it and I'm like, that looks like nothing. But I had a very hard time looking at his face all like bloodied up when I was a
I
kid.
know,
That
because
was
we loved him, right?
scaring. I guess, yeah, that was probably what it was coming from. But I think they're just very different types of scares and even a different atmosphere to a degree, which
Absolutely.
is like it's kind of exciting me to describe it that way because while they both feel quite different, it very much still feels connected. And I think that is it's a real art to be able to pull that off, which is why these two are both they're both very beloved movies for me. But I have to go with the OG as my number one because like again, I don't think there's any filler in that movie. That movie is pure perfection. Like I think Jurassic Park is perfection, and I think Scream is perfection. There isn't a single scene in Scream that I don't look forward to seeing, and I think that that kind of feeling is what puts that weight and that certainty behind a movie that you can ultimately call your favorite, where you literally are sitting there looking forward to every
Mm.
next moment.
Although I should say I probably chose the word filler a little
I,
ineloquently.
I hear you.
I do not want to be like the guy that's I'm
And now
absurd.
I'm
Come on,
seizing on
we're hosting this podcast. I think maybe I think what you're getting at is almost the same reason that I slightly prefer Scream, and it's just different tastes for different folks because it's like, what do you want to rewatch? What are the scenes you want to relive? And I do agree, Scream is perfection. Like you, it got me into movies, and I started a blog. I started, becoming obsessed with the script leaks for Scream 2. Remember those early days of the internet? You're a bit younger than me, but I think, but remember those early days of the internet when we were on like Ain't It Cool, seeing what was happening with who was being cast and what Kevin Williamson was denying. These were great moments. This movie got me so excited, and I do agree that the craftsmanship of Scream, that first movie, is just off the charts. And that bathroom scene is like basic perfection. And even when I talk about the principal scene, I think it's the length of the scene. I like extended set pieces a little bit. But that is just supremely well done. And the whole movie is paced so well. And, the fact that the finale is basically a third or more of the whole film. You're not exactly not getting your bang for the buck horror
It's
eyes.
probably also worth stressing that, correct me if I'm wrong or if you disagree, but this is definitely my favorite list.
Mm.
It's not necessary. I mean, actually, well, that's not true in this case because if I were to review all four of these movies, this would still be my ranking for them. But I guess the point being, this is a very personal list. We're not necessarily trying to assess certain things in a traditional
Mm.
critical way. This is very much coming from a place of passion, and it seems to very much speak to our personal preferences and our personal taste, and that's
Yes.
that's getting me really hyped for the conversations we're going to have moving forward because we don't know all that much about the next Scream. I don't even know what to call it. Like, are we still calling it Scream 5?
I don't think we're supposed to, but I really don't like this calling it Scream again because it just feels wrong to me. It's like with the Halloween thing, like, and then we sort of settled into going Halloween 2018, and I guess that's why we've got this graphic saying Scream
I know. I
2022,
I
which
guess
I
that's gonna be the habit, like, just like I eventually just casually would call Halloween, Halloween 2018, I'm just gonna have to say Scream 2022 because saying Scream, yeah, it doesn't feel quite right to me.
no, it doesn't. And I guess they're making, I mean, we don't know much about Scream 2022 slash 5 slash just Scream. Studio would probably prefer we say it like that. But I guess the intention with that title is that we're going to be seeing some resetting, right? I feel like that's a pretty bold statement. Although, I suppose Halloween was intentional in its retconning, but I don't think we're going to see retconning here. But I do think we're seeing a new generation and a bit of a new start, and I'm excited about that. As much as I love the camp and stuff, I do want a bit of that. I want it to feel current. I want it to feel scary. It's very demanding. I want it to be an homage to Dear Wes, and but I also want it to do its own thing.
Let's wrap up our very first episode of Countdown to Scream 2022. In case you guys didn't notice, you could find our Twitter handles below. Joel, is that your other social media handle too? Is that like on Instagram and other places?
Yeah, but I'm one of those private Instagram people, so you can
Oh,
try it. I'll vet you. I think Scream has taught me that when randoms reach out to you, you should be careful. But you can follow me on Twitter.
I learned nothing. You can find me there, like everywhere. TikTok. I like TikTok a lot now.
Oh, I'm
Instagram.
gonna watch your TikTok.
Oh, I'm very addicted to it. It's quite fun over there.
How much TikTok is gonna be in Scream 5? That's what I'm nervous about. I'm like, are they gonna be going with these like random new social media platforms?
I am curious to see what happens with that because I don't
Mhm.
know. I'm still expanding and tapping into new ones. I guess they're going to have to too. We are going to wait and
Ghostface
see.
fans.
Guys, we have so much Scream content coming your way in the next couple of months and I don't know. We're not going to limit this. Who knows? We're going to go beyond that. We'll see what happens. Scream is a thriving franchise and we love it and we're going to want to talk about it quite a bit. And we're very happy that you are here talking about it with us. I'll give a quick shout out to Ian Wilder who got me this shirt. Ian, thanks so much. It's my favorite Scream shirt I have now. Joel,
I
can you
love it.
show off your shirt one more time?
I can, and a shout out to Marlo Stern of the Daily Beast who bought me this this shirt for my birthday.
Very
So thank you very much, Marlo, and thank you, Perry, for getting this initiative started. I'm so excited to talk Scream with you.
Yeah. All right. We're out of here for now. We will see you next month with a new video or maybe sooner if a big piece of news drops. But we will be here talking Scream with you until Scream 2022. Bye, guys.